Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be solving 8 order of operations problems. So I wrote PEMDAS off to the side here, and remember that represents parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, adding and subtracting, and I put multiplying and dividing on the same line because those actually come at the same time, whichever one comes first from left to right. Same for adding and subtracting, whichever one comes first from left to right. So our problem here, we're going to first check for parentheses. Do we have parentheses? We do have parentheses, and within our parentheses we actually have two operations. We have subtraction as well as an exponent. So in your parentheses or any kind of grouping, sometimes you'll see brackets, you're also going to follow the order of operations. So between subtracting and an exponent, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this exponent first. 3 squared, remember this is 3 times 3, not 3 times 2. So be careful there, is 9. I'm just going to drop everything else down, keep everything the same. We're just going to do this step by step. And then we're going to check for our order again. Do we have parentheses? We still have parentheses because there's one more step inside the parentheses for us to complete. 7 minus 9 is -2. All right, do we have parentheses? We still do have these parentheses the way that I wrote this. However, there's nothing in the parentheses for me to do. It is just a integer. So I'm going to consider this one done. We are done with our parentheses. Do we have an exponent? We already took care of our exponent up here. So we do not have any more exponents. Multiplying and dividing. Do we have multiplication or division? We actually do. If you ever see a number right outside of parentheses like this is multiplication. So we're going to take care of this before we add and subtract. 2 times a -2 is a -4. Some people might write this as a plus a -4. But whenever you see plus a negative number, that is the same thing as just minus. So this is 8 minus 4 plus 6. Do we have any more multiplication or division? We do not, so we're done there. So we're going to move on to adding, subtracting. We have addition and subtraction. We're going to do whichever one comes first from left to right. So if I'm starting over here and I'm looking across from left to right, we see subtraction comes first. 8 minus 4 is 4 plus 6. We have our last step. 4 plus 6 is 10. So our answer is 10. Okay, I know some elementary school teachers call this the pizza because you start with your crust as your question, and then we kind of work our way down step by step. It gets smaller and smaller until we have this little pepperoni with our answer. Okay, so you want to show every single part of your step. Our next problem is now on the screen. We're going to do the same thing. I wrote PEMDAS off to the side here. We're going to check for parentheses. Now we have 2 sets of parentheses. So we're going to just move from left to right. So we're going to start with this 12 minus 2 cubed. And inside these parentheses, we do have 2 operations. We have the subtraction. We also have this exponent. So we're also going to follow the order of operations inside the parentheses. Which one comes first between subtraction and an exponent? Our exponent. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2. Be careful not to do 2 times 3. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Okay, so we're just going to drop everything down with our exponent solved. And then we're going to move on to the next step. We still have parentheses to do, so we're going to move from left to right. This one comes first. 12 minus 8 is 4. And then we can drop this second set of parentheses down. Still taking care of parentheses. 5 minus 3 is 2. Now some people are going to write it like this, 4 with 2 in parentheses like this. Other people are going to write it like this. They're going to keep their 4 in parentheses and then their 2 in parentheses. Either way, know that this number right next to parentheses is multiplication. So we're going to multiply 4 times 2. This does not equal 42. This equals 8. Okay, so we took care of our parentheses and our exponent, and then we're going to multiply right there at the end. We don't have adding, subtracting. The only adding and subtracting we had was within the parentheses, so we took care of that first. The answer to this one is 8. Right, as we're solving, it's going to come down in this pizza shape, showing each step. All right, here's our next problem. We're going to follow our same steps. Parentheses, there is parentheses, and again, like our first two problems, we have two operations going on. We have this exponent and we have addition. We're going to follow the order of operations within the parentheses as well and go and take care of this exponent. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. I'm just going to write everything else and just bring it down. We're going to take care of this parentheses. 4 plus 1 is 5, and I'm going to leave that in parentheses this time. And even though it is just an integer, I'm going to go ahead and cross off parentheses there. Exponent, we already took care of our exponent within our parentheses, multiplying and dividing. All right, so we have multiplication right here because the number right next to parentheses means multiplication. So our 15 is going to drop down. 15 plus 3 times 5 is 15. We're done with multiplying and dividing. Our last step is adding and subtracting. 15 plus 15 is 30. Our next problem, we have 6 squared plus 2 to the 4th power minus 7. Okay, do we have parentheses? We do. Every single one of these problems seems to have parentheses. There's 2 steps in here, so we have to follow the order of operations. Are we going to take care of that exponent first or subtraction? Exponent comes before subtraction in the order of operations. So we're going to do 2 to the 4th power, which is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, so 2 to the 4th power is 16 minus 7. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this parentheses here. 16 minus 7 is 9. And we are done with parentheses. Do we have an exponent? This time we actually do have an exponent. 6 squared. That is 6 times 6. Which is 36. 36 plus 9 comes next. We are done with our exponent. There is no multiplication or division, so we're going to move on to our last step, which is adding and subtracting. 36 plus 9 is 45. Our next problem is 7 in parentheses 5 minus 3 plus 12 over 2. Okay, so parentheses. We do have parentheses. 5 minus 3 is 2. Done with parentheses because the only thing inside this parentheses is an integer. Do we have an exponent? Nope, so we're done with that. Do we have multiplication or division? We actually have both. This is multiplication when it's right next to each other. And fractions are always a sign for division. Okay, so that 12 over 2, 12 halves, that is 12 divided by 2. But we're still going to move from left to right, so we're going to take care of this first. 7 times 2 is 14. And then we'll take care of this division. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now we're done with multiplying and dividing, so we're going to move on to our last step, which is adding and subtracting. 14 plus 6 is 20. Getting a little bit more complicated, we have negative 4 plus in a large fraction here, 3 times 4 over 2. So when you have a fraction which represents division, if you have operations on the numerator or the denominator, you're going to go ahead and take care of that using the order of operations before you divide. Okay, so this negative 4, we're just going to leave there because it's just a regular old integer. But we're going to use the order of operations on top if we need to, the order of operations on the bottom if we need to before we divide. So there's nothing on the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and write that too. But we can go ahead and take care of this. We know that's multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so that was no parentheses, no exponent. That was our multiplication division. We're going to continue with our multiplication division because this is division. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now we're done with our multiplication division, so our last step is to add and subtract. One more step left. Negative 4 plus 6 is 2. If you have a hard time thinking of that negative number, feel free to draw yourself a quick number line. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's negative 4. And if we add 6, we're going up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is positive 2. Or another way you can think of this, the order of your integers do not matter for addition. So instead of negative 4 plus 6, you can think of this as 6 minus 4. Okay, so because for order of operations, you do not get to use a calculator, so you don't want to practice with one. Okay, we have two sets of grouping here. That's why some people, instead of saying PEMDAS, they say GEMDAS. The G being grouping. This is like having a parentheses within a parentheses. So, oh, let me erase this. This is from our last problem. So do we have parentheses? We do. We have two sets of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to work our way out. We're going to take care of this inner parentheses first. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So 2 bracket 3 plus 6 in that parentheses is 0. Okay, so we're still working inside our parentheses or our grouping. We're going to do this multiplication right here. 6 times 0 is 0. We're going to finish our grouping. 3 plus 0 is 3. Okay, and these bars, these brackets, not bars, these brackets function the same way as parentheses do. Okay, so this right here is going to be multiplication. 2 times 3 is 6. So another way that we could write this, instead of using brackets, you could use double parentheses. 3 plus 6. You might see it like that. But you're going to focus in on this inside part first. And you're going to take care of this inner parentheses before you do the outer parentheses. Here's another problem with a large fraction with operations on top and bottom. So we're going to use the order of operations in our numerator, the order of operations are in our denominator before we divide, because we know a large fraction means division. So on top, this is multiplication. Negative 9 times negative 2 is positive 18. On the bottom, 3 plus a negative 4. Remember, plus minus is the same thing as just minus. 3 minus 4 is negative 1 plus 7. Now we can divide. 18 divided by negative 1 is negative 18 plus 7. Our last step is negative 11. If you need to draw yourself a number line so that you get those integer operations, please do. All right, thanks for watching. I hope that helps a little bit.